Prairie Estates Genetics isn't just a seed company. We're a dairy seed company, and we're the only company out there that can say that with a straight face. That's to say, we're not a subsidiary of a large corporate seed company. We're independently, family-owned in Wisconsin. Your success is our success. For nearly 20 years, we've been the only seed company dedicated to an overlooked segment of the seed market, the American dairy farmer. In an agricultural atmosphere that trends toward the many other uses of corn genetics, Prairie Estates Genetics is dedicated to the stewardship of corn genetics that specifically nourish dairy cows. By using high-quality, dairy-specific forages, we lower your cost of production and thereby increase your return on investment. Big seed companies have been telling dairymen for years that there's no difference between the best plant for the grain farmer and the best plant for the dairy farmer. That's as convenient for the big seed companies' bottom line as it is harmful to the dairy farmers. Corn grown to feed dairy cows in the U.S. makes up only about 10% of the market. So naturally, the big seed companies are primarily interested in the other 90% of the pie, grain. Why is this harmful to your bottom line? That brings us to why a dairy seed company exists in the first place. First off, going way back to the basics, bovine digestion is different than that of humans, chickens, pigs, and cars. Cows have 4 stomach compartments, which makes them special. Humans, chickens, pigs, and cars all consume grain corn. They use only the grain, the kernel of the plant. A grain farmer takes the stalk, cob, and leaves and throws it all away, leaving just the kernel. The rest is trash to a grain farmer. To a dairy farmer, the whole plant has value because cows eat the whole plant. Naturally, a dairy cow is healthier when she eats a plant that has been designed to cater to her unique digestive system. In other words, a dairy-specific hybrid. Dairy-specific hybrids have been designed with the whole plant in mind, not just the kernel.
As a dairy farmer, I look for high-yielding corn silage that has digestible starch and digestible fiber and feeds consistently from year to year.
As you can see, a dairy farmer and a grain farmer have very different needs. That brings us to your bottom line. The highest cost of production in dairy is feed cost. Half of what a dairy cow eats is forage, and silage can make up over half of the forage fed to cows. You should be getting the highest level of nutrition possible from that portion of your ration. You paid for it. Only 10% of all corn grown in the U.S. is grown for silage to feed dairy cows, and Prairie Estates Genetics specializes in that 10%. Other seed companies understandably grow for the greater majority, grain farmers. Anybody can talk the talk, but we're the only company that sells only to dairymen, and of course, grain farmers who grow for dairies. Starch and fiber are the 2 things a dairy cow gets out of corn silage. Prairie Estates Genetics measures how much starch and fiber is in the corn and how digestible the starch and fiber are. We test all of our hybrids for 3 years in 22 locations across the upper Midwest before we ever put them in our customers' fields. Too much fiber fills the stomach and stops the cow from eating, which reduces milk production. Too little fiber is not healthy for the cow because it leads to rumen upset. Too much starch leads to rumen upset and fat depression. Too little starch doesn't provide enough energy for the cow and therefore reduces milk production. Digestibility of both the starch and the fiber is what limits or boosts milk production. If forages are consistently high quality, there will be fewer production ups and downs and ruminal upsets. There's an old adage in dairy farming that if you take care of the animals will take care of you. Just as dairy buildings are designed for cow health and comfort, your dairy forage should be designed for cow health and comfort. A content, healthy cow is a productive cow, and therefore a more profitable cow. The quality of your silage is a vital part of that simple equation. Every time a cow loses 5 pounds of production, it could take her 2 weeks to get that 5 pounds back. Our goal is to make sure she never loses that 5 pounds of production and in fact gains milk and maintains that gain. We sell fewer hybrids because there are only a few plants that will allow your cows to produce at this high level. Anytime you get a corn catalog with 30 choices that are dual purpose, you need to ask yourself, do you have a dual purpose farm? So you might think, okay, maybe your hybrids are better, but everybody says that. Fair enough, but are those other guys there after the sale? After they drop off your bags of seed? You aren't alone with Prairie Estates Genetics. We're right there with you 365 days a year because the right timing means everything to quality and digestibility. How do we support you? First of all, Each one of our dairies has a PEG forage manager. We take special pride in our forage managers. Every single one of them has worked on a family dairy farm for multiple years, feeding, milking, doing all the hard work you've done and your kids have done. We don't just sell to dairy farmers, we are dairy farmers. We consult with you and your agronomist to find the perfect genetics for your soil type, fertility, and pest control program. Whether you plant 300 acres or 3,000, Prairie Estates Genetics strategizes planting with you and your team to optimize your harvest moisture and timing. Our forage managers come to your field to identify where our products are planted. We come back in July and August to see how the crop has matured and set times to come back for moisture testing. Just before harvest, we return to the field to do yield tests and moisture checks. We discuss desired moisture, length of cut, height of cut, and processing efficiencies with our farmers and how to accomplish that through timing of harvest. We advise you on when to harvest and then ride with you to check the processing in real time. We'll be with you in the chopper and at the bunker. We send samples to the lab at harvest. Post-harvest, we return with the results to give to your nutritionist. We'll also take fermented samples if need be. We're there to consult with your nutritionist year-round. Need anything else? We're just a phone call away. In a nutshell, our job is to help you maximize your return on investment by lowering the cost of production through high-quality, dairy-specific corn silage, and we do that job 365 days a year, just like you. Since biblical times, there's been a bond between man, his animals, and the land. As modern American agriculture has become more specialized, that relationship has changed, but in dairy, the bond remains strong. That is the relationship that Prairie Estates Genetics is proud to be a part of. Take care of the animals, and the animals will take care of you. We understand dairy farms, the dairy life. We understand your granddad's dairy farm, and we understand your modern dairy farm. With all the complexities of modern dairy farming, we're with you every step of the way, from seed to feed. We live here. We're your neighbors, your friends. We grew up on dairy farms like yours. And unlike the big guys, our business depends upon your success. Try us. You'll be glad you did.